Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's call. This is Tony Javier, founder of Real Estate Prodigy, and today we're going to talk about finding and hiring contractors. For those of you who have not listened to Rehabbing 101, please do listen to that. And basically, this is one of the subjects we talked about in Rehabbing 101, which is a very important part of the business if you're going to be rehabbing properties. Rehabbing properties is a huge part of our business, and contractors have been one of the biggest obstacles that I've had in my real estate investing career. Over 15 years of investing, I've hired pretty much any kind of wrong contractor you can think of. Contractors that didn't show up on time, contractors that were drinking on the job, that were, smoking pot on the job. I mean, if it's happened, you can imagine it. It's probably happened to us over hundreds of jobs and over, a decade and a half of experience. We've seen just about everything. So what I want to do today is I want to set you guys up to succeed in your rehabbing business. Contractors are going to be a big part of that. You get the wrong contractors in place, you're going to have headaches. You're not going to like that part of the business. But if you have the right contractors in place, like we do, which has taken us a long time to come up with the systems and things to find those contractors, then, once you find those great contractors, it makes your life so much easier. So let's dive right into it. So what you're going to learn today is where to find the best contractors, what to look for in a great contractor after many interviews and hiring many of the wrong people and some of the right people. I can tell you what to look for and kind of the signs of a good contractor. How to interview and pre-qualify contractors. This is something that people are not taking the time to do, and they say that hiring the wrong person in your business as an employee can cost you tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's the exact same thing with contractors. So interview them and pre-qualify them, and we'll show you how to do it. And we're going to show you how to set your jobs up to succeed. There's many things that you can put in place to find the right contractors and to set your jobs up to succeed. If you don't take the time to set those things up, can you have a good job site? Absolutely. You can still make money with rehabs, especially if you buy them right. But if you spend a little bit more time up front to set your jobs up the way that they're supposed to, they're going to be so much more likely to succeed. So let's start with finding contractors, where to find the best contractors. And yep, that's right. You find them on the beach. I actually put that up there for you ladies. There aren't very many lady contractors, or else I would put a nice looking lady up there. So that's actually one of the Property Brothers. Great show. So let's look at where to find the best contractors and where we found the best contractors. And I'm telling you, bar none, referrals are the number one source for contractors. Referrals are good because typically it's people that you know and trust that are sending these contractors to you. And if they're sending these contractors to you and they're putting their name on the line, chances are they've used them or they've heard rave reviews about them. So, actually they say that most people who get a job are actually those that are referred to that company. And, why should it be any different for contractors? So ask around. One of the things I do is I'll post on Facebook if I have my roofers go down, if I have my cleaning person get sick, if I need a backup, then I'll just post on Facebook, hey, does anybody know a cleaning lady? And I guarantee you go do that right now, you'll get 1 to 5 referrals, if not 10, of people that have used somebody that they want to refer to you that are actually good enough. Other contractors, so let's say you know a really good sheetrock guy. Don't be afraid to ask him who he recommends as a framer or who he recommends as a as a trim carpenter. Contractors hang out with other good contractors. Bad contractors hang out with other bad contractors. So you don't necessarily want to ask a bad contractor if, they know someone, but if you have a good contractor on board, don't be afraid to ask them if they know anybody. And, if they're on your team and there's someone that really wants to help you, then they're probably going to put some feelers out and ask some people, or, at least ask them if they can ask some other people that they know. And, again, if they're the right person that's in your business, then they're going to take that extra step to find that person for you. And you know what? If, your sheetrocker really cares about your job sites and wants things to go smoother, then if you need a framer, they're going to recommend a good framer, because that affects his job too. Because the framer, if he's behind, if he does shoddy work, then that makes the sheetrocker's job that much harder. So don't be afraid to ask your contractors for referrals. Suppliers, Lowe's is, who we use for all of our supplies. So, they're kind of touchy on who they recommend. They're not supposed to technically refer anybody to you, but they may say, hey, I know, John comes in and he's, a good guy. I'll tell you what, I'll give him your phone number and have him call you. Our carpet company, we use a carpet outlet that we get stuff for bulk pricing. And anytime we need a flooring guy, which we've gone through many, we have a couple of good ones now. But they have business card after business card of guys that come in there and pick up carpet all the time, and they kind of know, who's good and who's not. So check with your suppliers. Sherwin-Williams we use for paint. So, there's many times where we've asked them for painter referrals. They keep business cards in their shop. So, they'll just go through the business cards and say, hey, here's Christopher. He, comes in here all the time. He seems like a good guy. Why don't you give him a try? Angie's List is, I've never used Angie. Well, I've actually used it. I've never actually pulled someone off of Angie's List and used them. But the good thing about Angie's List is that they have people that are rated. So you can see reviews of, who's good and who's not. And I guess the downfall of Angie's List is people that pay to be on there may be a little bit more expensive. But it's definitely worth a shot, especially if you're looking for a really good general contractor, or if you're looking for someone that's reputable. You may want to pay a little bit more money to get a good contractor on board. So, why not try it? Give it a shot. Now, Craigslist, I've not had much luck with. The only time I've had luck with Craigslist is for grunt help. People that you want to do, demo, hauling, landscaping, things of that nature. If you're looking for a really good contractor, chances of finding them on Craigslist are pretty slim, at least in my experience. Those that are actually doing good work are probably going to be busy, and they're not going to have to put ads on Craigslist. They get referrals. They've got, work a couple weeks, a month in advance. So not the best for skilled work, but if you definitely want grunt work, go on Craigslist. There's people looking for stuff all the time. Newspaper is actually a good one. Yes, people do still use the newspaper. And for those of you that are too young to know what a newspaper is, it's those things they throw in your driveway that you see out there sometimes. Newspaper is going away a little bit, but sure as heck, a few months ago, I opened up the paper and saw that there were still contractors that were advertising. In fact, there's a few in there that I use that are good contractors. So there's, I can't remember which section it is. It's somewhere probably in your classifieds. It might even be in a random section in your newspaper. But if you go in the newspaper, you look through, you should be able to find a section for contractors, or they may call it like skilled labor, or something like that. So don't be afraid to go in there and check your newspaper for a list of contractors that you can call and interview. And of course, you've heard of good old Google. Again, kind of the same thing with Angie's List. If they're high on the search engines and they're paying for ads, chances are they may be a little bit more expensive. But really, contractors don't really advertise that much. So you may get some single person that just threw up a one-page website. If you Google, you'll find their name. So typically, you can tell by their website what kind of business they are. And then just give them a call, interview them. You're probably not going to have reviews unless you go to an Angie's List or something like that. But you can definitely find people on Google. If you need a framer, type in framer. If you need a sheetrock person, type in sheetrock. And, if you type in sheetrock, chances are you'll probably find like some kind of a sheetrock supplier. So even if you're not using that supplier, I wouldn't hesitate to give them a call and say, hey, I know you do sheetrock. I want to buy some sheetrock from you. Do you think that you could recommend some guys that do a high volume of sheetrock? In fact, starting the Tampa, Florida market, which is one of the new markets we just went into, that's one of the first things I did was called suppliers and said, hey, do you have people that you recommend that you know are good, that do consistent business with you, that I could call and interview? And man, I got dozens of referrals by doing that. So that's definitely a good way to get some good referrals. Okay, so let's move on to interviewing a contractor. I used to make the mistake back in the day of, just throwing contractors in there. I'd find one, I'd talk to them, they'd talk a good game. I'd show them the property, I wouldn't have a scope of work, and I would just get them going. Can you be successful that way? Sure you can. I did it for years before I came up with this process and learned from other people and learn from their processes. So I'm going to show you how to interview a contractor so that you know whether they're good or not. So we have a contractor interview sheet that we have in our archive. So if you're a pro member, then you have access to this. And this asks them a lot of basic questions. How long have you been in the business? What kind of jobs do you do? How many job sites do you have going right now? You can even ask them, if you can go visit those job sites. So, we've come up with a list of questions that are very good up front to ask them. And by asking them these questions, you can get a better feel for what kind of contractor they are. Now, obviously, you're not really going to know what kind of contractor, they are, or, what kind of work they do, 100% until you hire them. But really, you can weed a lot of the bad people out. If they're just wanting to show you pictures and they're not letting you visit job sites, that's a big sign that, their job sites are messy or their job quality is not good. So, look for those signs of, people trying to hide things. I always interview them like an employee, always drill down, always go as far as asking them references. So, ask them all the questions you have on their interview sheet, get a good feel for them over the phone. What I found is that if contractors oversell themselves, that means that they're probably not that good. If they undersell themselves and they're kind of quiet and they're shy, they may not be that good. So you have opposite ends of the spectrum, people that oversell themselves and people that kind of are just quiet and don't really aren't very social. Those may be good workers, but they're not good business people, and it's going to be tough to deal with them. So try and find someone in between that's very confident in their work, that are going to tell you that they do good work, but they're not going to sit there and talk to you for an hour about how great they are. And I had that happen with a contractor the other day, and honestly, I really wanted to use him. I liked him himself, but he just over-talked himself. I'd ask him how long this job would take, and he said, oh, it'll take 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden he's like, well, if this happens in 4 weeks, but you know what, if this happens, and, he talked so much that he talked himself out of that job, because I could tell he was just a BSer. He just did not get to the point. He did not, I could just tell he wasn't telling the truth. He was just overselling himself. So I found if people talk about themselves too much, that they're not the right people. Make sure they are insured. That's a big deal to us. We've never had anything happen, but if something does happen, then their insurance will cover it. And of course, a license if needed. If they're doing major framing, major roofing, things like that, major electrical, make sure they're licensed, so that you don't get in trouble and so that that they know what they're doing. And ask them if they can handle what you're going to give them. They don't necessarily have to be able to handle 60 projects a year or anything like that up front, but just let them know, hey, we're a high volume business. We're wanting to get things done quickly. How many employees do you have is one of the questions that we ask them, or how many guys do you have access to be able to work on our jobs. and let them know what your expectations are, what your time frames are, so that you're not wasting your time. Because if someone says, well, I'm a one-man show, and you're needing them to do framing, sheetrock, and trim work, then obviously they're not the guy for you. Now, if they're a single guy and you want them to do some, odd jobs, some handiwork, maintenance calls on, some properties, that's fine. But if you're wanting them to do a full-blown job for you, or at least, big parts of the job, then if they're a one-man show, then that's just not going to work. And like I said, ask for and check references. Preferably someone that's done multiple jobs for them, or at least a big job for somebody. And when you check references, usually you can know whether, it's legit or not. If someone says, well, he did a job for me, 6 years ago, and it was, hanging a light fixture or something like that, something real simple. Obviously, that contractor doesn't have the references to support what he's telling you if he tells you that he's good. So make sure the references you talk to are good references, and find out, were they on time? Were they on budget? Did they do what they say they were going to do? Were they easy to deal with? Things that, that you need on your job sites. They can usually tell you. And one of the best things to do is talk to a real estate investor. Because if you have a real estate investor reference, that means that that investor most likely had a budget, they had a time frame, they had expectations, and they're someone that's like you. So call them, ask them, how the job site went and how the contractor dealt with everything. And you're going to get a pretty dang good idea of how that contractor works, especially after talking to 2 or 3 people. And of course, I always have everybody sign an independent contractor agreement. That's in your documents archive. Basically, independent contractor agreement states, pretty much anything that you need to up front to help your job, or kind of create expectations. How to handle job sites, how to order materials. In fact, I'm getting ready to do a video here soon with the independent contractor agreement, so you may actually have a video here in your archives here pretty soon as a pro member of the independent contractor agreement that I go over line by line. Tells how someone gets paid. And another big thing that's come up is the EPA. Back 2010, 2012, somewhere in that range, EPA came up with a guideline that said if you work on a property that's built before 1978, chances are it has lead-based paint. And in order to work on those properties, if you disturb like a small amount of sheetrock, it's like 10 square feet, which is basically nothing. If you disturb more than 10 square feet, you have to be licensed, a licensed EPA or EPA certified person to handle lead-based paint, and you have to follow certain procedures in order to do that. Now in Kansas, we're getting tightened down on and looked over. Whether you're being looked over or not, that's something you want to take into consideration and find EPA certified people to work on your jobs. Now, if you can't find those, then use your discretion on that. I hate to tell you to use non-EPA certified people, but I know now we always have EPA certified people, and if they're not certified, ask them if they're willing to get certified, and if they're the right people and they're motivated enough, then they're going to get that certification for you to protect you and to protect them as well. Okay, so I know that was a quick and dirty, summary of this section, or part of this section, but I think you got the point here of how to find and hire the right contractors. It's not brain surgery. Just take your time. Take your time finding these contractors and putting them into place. So we covered the best places to find contractors. Referrals are number one source. Check your suppliers, ask around, ask other people. Continuously, whether you need contractors or not, always be asking around other people. Even if you just meet someone, hey, I'm in the real estate business, here's what I do. They think it's cool. Oh, hi, hey, by the way, we're looking for additional contractors. Do you know anybody that's good? That one good contractor can make or break, not make or break, but, well, it could make or break, really, but can really set the tone for your rehabbing business. Right now we have a machine to where we throw properties into our mix. We know we have the right contractors, and we just spit properties out left and right, knowing that we have the right systems and the right contractors in place. Interview contractors very well, like I said. Make sure that you check their references. Make sure that you check their job sites if they have some job sites going right now. Just make sure that before you throw someone on the job site, you have a pretty good idea of who they are and how they work before you get too deep with them. Check references. Call the references, like I said. And make sure they can meet your time frames. One of the big things, I do every time I call a new contractor to meet me out on a job is ask them what their time frame is for being able to get a bid and what their time frame is for being able to start a job. So if I'm closing on a property in 2 weeks and I know that they can't start for another month and a half, that's not going to work for me. If I close in 2 weeks and it's 3 weeks out, that they're telling me, I'd use my discretion on whether to get them out if I really feel like they're the right person and I can wait a week after closing to start the job, then I'll do it. But again, make sure that also that they can meet your time frame for getting a bid. Hey, let's meet out there tomorrow. I need a bid within 48 hours. That's one of the things on our contractor agreement that we have them sign is that we need a bid within 48 hours. Going 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days without a bid. If you have big major jobs where they need to get structural engineer reports and things like that, I can kind of understand that. But if you have painters that are, taking more than 48 hours, framers, sheetrockers, if they have their measurements and you have a good scope of work for them, there's no reason that they can't get you a bid within 48 hours. And tell them, if you can't get me a bid within 48 hours, then I'm not even going to look at your bid. And then, of course, I always kind of give them an idea of what our system is over the phone. So, tell them we have a contractor's agreement. We expect, bids within 48 hours. We have high expectations for our contractors. We don't need the cheapest pricing, but if you're expensive, if you're going to be retail pricing, we don't want it. We tell our contractors before we even meet them out there that we do high volume. We, treat our people right. We pay them every week. We do all these things for our contractors. We expect to be treated the same in return and to be giving the best prices possible. And if we're giving them, we give some of our contractors 60 jobs a year. And if we're going to give you that amount of work, we expect us to be number one. I doubt there's anybody else that gives our contractors as much work as we give them. In fact, there are a bunch of contractors that we hire that exclusively work for us. They don't take on any other outside work because they know that we give them the volume and give them the work. And if it weren't for us, some of them even wouldn't have businesses. In fact, I'm not just saying that. They actually have told us that many times. If it weren't for you guys, we wouldn't have a business. Now, being in their shoes, I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket. But they know that we're a good, sustainable business and we're going to give them work continuously. So that's it for finding and hiring contractors. Again, just take your time, ask around, put a lot of feelers out there, and you follow this right here, this system. It's going to set your rehabbing business up to succeed. So thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you next time.